Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Chance, and it's Friday, so that means it's time for some board game hot takes. And today's episode is all about board game expansions. I got a handful of them here for you, and I got mixed feelings about expansions. Basically, I would say I used to be in the mindset of, oh, I found this cool new game, and oh, look, there's expansion content for it. I need to get it all because I want to experience all that the game has to offer. These days, I'm a little, I'm wiser. I've learned my lessons. I've learned that not all games need their expansions. Actually, very few do. A lot of times, expansions just muddy up the works a bit. It makes the games more complicated, it makes it harder to table, makes them harder to teach. Expansions are really for, I think they land in that area of most of the time, you're going to want an expansion if you've played the game so many times that you just need more content for it. You want to have a little more variability. Then go out and seek that expansion. Do you need it right away? Probably not. And then, of course, with like those GameFound campaigns or the Kickstarter campaigns, those all-in pledges, they have all the content for the game, but it's like, oh, is all that content really going to hit the table? So, I've gotten a little bit better. I mean, I still do the all-in pledge. I'm not crazy. I still have that FOMO. But, I think about not doing the all-in pledge, which I think is an improvement, step in the right direction. There's only a few games, though, that I'm like, oh yeah, this expansion was 100% worth it, need it for the game, like Blood Rage, 5th player expansion. That's an easy, to me, no-brainer. like I wish that would have just been in the base box for 5 players. Then we got, we're going to come back to this one, Aquatica Cold Waters. Phenomenal expansion. I feel like the base Aquatica, too short with Cold Waters, makes the game fantastic. Adds a little bit more overhead, a little bit more to the teach, but I think it's worth it. So, yeah. Let's find out, are any of the expansions in today's video going to be worth seeking out? And let's kick things off with a co-op expansion for a 2-player game called Santorini. Now, this is going to be Santorini Riddle of the Sphinx. So this turns this kind of head-to-head chess-like abstract game where you're trying to build up these towers and get your person up to the 3rd floor basically to beat your opponent, but basically your opponent can cap off those floors and prevent you from moving there. So it's a very abstract grid-based puzzle. Has that kind of chess head-to-head feeling without the complications of chess. Like, how does that horse move? An L? That's crazy. No, Santorini, way easier, way more straightforward with kind of this cool 3D puzzle that you're working out. Now, Santorini Riddle of the Sphinx turns this experience into a co-op puzzle. And I'm going to say that I really like this. I love this. I think this is a fantastic expansion for the game. So it comes with a co-op scenario book that you're going to be working through, and it does a fantastic job of introducing new rules. So one of the things that I really like about the base game of Santorini is that the teach is really easy. It's very easy to introduce to people. It's easy to get going and easy to set up. And when you have these expansions, I would say a lot of times it can be hard to play them or hard to add them because of the rules overhead that you're doing to this game that is already like streamlined and well set up. But they did a really good job of introducing these new rules, introducing how these puzzles work, and introducing how the co-op problem solving works in this scenario book. So it eases you into the rules and adds new ones throughout the course of those first few scenarios, and it's great. I played it at 2 players so far. I think I've done 3 or 4 scenarios, and this is probably my preferable way to play it. I don't play as many solo games these days. I think I was playing more solo games during the pandemic, that's just how that works. But if I have my choice, I'm going to be playing with at least one other person these days. So Santorini, Riddle of the Sphinx, playing at 2 players, I've been having a really good time just working this puzzle out with another player. I don't really think I'd want to go higher than that, 3 and 4. I mean, that's where you kind of get into the area where turns are just taking too long as people try to all get on the same page with how things are supposed to work in this puzzle. So I think that this is a 1 or 2 player game. I think this would be great at 1 player. I do think it's a really cool puzzle. It probably wouldn't be my preference. Like, I still think I prefer things with a little more theme to bring me into them, or even just simpler rule set to bring out. So like Resist with a little more of that thematic experience that I get out of it, or the Lucky 7, which is just a nice little abstract one that I can put in my pocket and carry around. Santorini Riddle of the Sphinx is one that you're probably not going to be carrying around with you. that one's going to be staying at the house because you also need the base game components, and that's going to be a lot of stuff to lug around to play that solo experience. So yeah, it's not your travel solo game. But yeah, 2 players is how I like to do this. And the last thing I'll call out, because you do need the base game, this does make this a pretty pricey co-op experience to have. Like, I think the MSRP on Riddle the Sphinx is like $40, and the base game is not exactly cheap either. So this is a costly expansion, which is the only downside I have in it, is that, yeah, it'll set you back a little bit to do this co-op experience. Or, well, I guess solo if you really want to experience that. So Riddle the Sphinx, I do recommend this. I like it. I think this is a nice version of Santorini. While I do like the head-to-headness of Santorini and those variable god powers to provide that kind of mixing things up, I do feel that some of those games can get a little, I would say, old for me. So this is a nice way to mix up that experience with Santorini. Okay, that'll do it for Santorini Riddle the Sphinx. Moving on, this is going to be a bit of an older expansion now. I think 2023 was when this one came out, and there was a lot of anticipation around this. This is going to be Beyond the Sun, Leaders of the New Dawn. So first up, there's lots of stuff in this box. I think they put a decent amount of content into this expansion. For no comment on the solo mode, I have not done solo for Beyond the Sun. Like I said, I try to play with other people if I can. So, and also these bigger solo games tend not hit the table as much. If I'm going to play a bigger solo game, it's going to be something like Oathsworn. Like, I want to play something epic when I do a solo game. I'm not a huge like solo Euro player, you know. Beyond the Sun, I think, has some cool interactive components with the planets and the colonization. And also the kind of the defining that tech tree with the other players. So I think there's a lot of things that work really well when playing this game with other players, where it's not as dry as other Euros, at least for me. Now, the Leaders in the New Dawn, I would say it added more cards, it added some replacement cards for balance, which I think is, actually that's one of the reasons why you might want to seek this expansion out. I also love the new faction, the Hive Mind faction. I think is awesome. It adds in a cool little endgame prediction thing where you get like these prediction cards and you say what endgame objectives you think are going to have, I think, more or less tokens on them by the end of the game. So it's kind of this cool thing where you set that and then you work towards driving towards those conclusions. You're like, oh, I'm the predictive hive mind. Like I am the ultimate AI being, so I'm going to be able to predict the direction that this game is going to go. So those things are great. The more stuff and the new faction, absolutely love it. The other main part of this one is the Leaders expansion. Now, this is where I'm a little, let's say, lukewarm on this. The problem is that when you're adding more rules to a game, it just makes it a little more complicated, makes it harder to teach new players, and it's just a little more overhead. Like it has to be worth it, right? The leader cards, they're not bad, they're good, but this setup of the game gets a little slow because you got to deal out those leader cards, and everyone's gonna, I think, in some order, you're gonna draft one of those leader cards. You got to read them all off, say, oh, this is what this one does. Oh, let me clarify this rule for you if you don't know what this means. So it slows down the start of the game. Then it's also kind of hard to keep track of during the game. Like there's some things that are kind of important for players to know, and yeah, you're going to want to know what leader they have and what ability they're going to be able to have during the game. So because of that, I'm not a huge fan of the Leaders expansion, or the leader cards in the Leaders expansion. I don't think they're bad. I think it does add some new variability to the game. So if you've played Beyond the Sun like a dozen or so times, maybe this is going to be right up your alley. If you have that group that's done this a dozen or so times, you're not like me, introducing new players all the time to Beyond the Sun, maybe those leader cards will be a bit better for you. But I do think everything else in the expansion is fantastic, so it's kind of a worthwhile expansion. Like, it's not one that I would say, yeah, you absolutely need it for Beyond the Sun. I think Beyond the Sun is great by itself, and you're probably not going to notice any of those balance issues with those 4 technology cards that are replaced. So that's not going to be a big deal. But if you're just looking for a little more variety, yeah, it's a decent expansion. All right, next up, I'm going to move on to a game that has a bunch of expansions, but I'm only going to talk about one of those expansions. This is going to be Thunder Road Vendetta Chop Shop. So I have Thunder Road Vendetta Maximum Chrome Edition. I have not played with all the content for Maximum Chrome. I've added in a bunch of random stuff from various expansions or mini expansions. I don't even know what's in the box. So, you know, that's one of the issues with having all the content for a game, is that it makes it a little hard to get to the table, because you're like, oh, what version of the game am I going to play? So I don't know. One of those things where I'm like, maybe I should have just gone retail. But if you did go retail, the one expansion that I can tell you that is worth picking up for Thunder Road Vendetta, Choppe. Hands down, I think this one you should have for the game. I think this makes the game way better, gives players a little more agency, and is, yeah, 100% worth it. Okay, maybe not 100%, because I'm going to start things off with saying that it does add in these variable player powers, or these asymmetric leaders that you can have for your cars, which give you a bit of a change in how you're going to be playing the game versus the other players in the game. Sometimes this is great. I don't always love having asymmetry in a simple game. Thunder Road Vendetta, very simple. You're just moving and rolling dice and causing chaos. The asymmetric leader powers, they, once again, add some overhead. They add some more rules. They add a little bit of muddy the waters a little bit. There's less clarity around how things work. Like we had the first time I played the leaders, there was just a little bit of confusion on how things triggered. Like, and there's these leader tokens and how those are used. So it added complication in this chaotic, simple, fun game. And that was the downside for me. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a problem moving forward. Like, the leaders aren't super complicated. There was one in play that seemed like something was broken with how they were operating, and we're all questioning, we're like, is this how this works? Maybe, let's just, and it's kind of one of those things where it's a simple game and you don't want to be bogged down with those rules questions during the game. So you're just like, let's just play it like this and continue. We'll figure it out later. So that's the situation we ran into with those variable leader cards. Yeah, I want to play with them again, because I think it is kind of cool having that asymmetry in this game, because like I said, it is very light. So sometimes having a little more control is kind of cool. So, but I don't think they're required. The thing that I think is required is the other part of this, these upgrade cards. I love these upgrade cards. They add in just a nice little sprinkling of chaos into an already chaotic environment. They're not super complicated. They're pretty easy to understand. They're just fun. They're all fun. Like, so you can drop mines on there. You get different gun powers. You get different, I don't know, like recovery or blocking damage powers or something. Overall, upgrades are great, and you actually start the game with a draft, which is another thing I absolutely love. You look at these cards, you're like, ooh, I want this one. And then you're like, ooh, but do I want to pass this card to my neighbor? Oh, that seems dangerous. I don't want them to have whatever crazy thing this is. And yeah, giving each one of your cards just that little asymmetric ability that it gets to use during the game is a great addition to Thunder Road Vendetta. So, Choppe leaders, meh. They're fine. I don't think that's the reason to get the expansion, but the upgrade cards, 100%, hands down. Like, I highly recommend the upgrade cards from that expansion. Okay, so now moving on to another expansion. I think this one was so Choppe I think was 2023. Now we're moving into 2024, and this is going to be Aquatica Coral Reefs. So I love Aquatica. I think it's the first time I played it, I was just enamored with that sliding card ability. You get these dual layer player boards where you're gonna have these locations that you're trying to like exploit as you put them on your player boards. They're gonna have various resources and abilities, and you're basically working on this puzzle of sliding these cards up on that board. There's like gonna be bubbles that block you from sliding them, and then you gotta use these other abilities to basically move past that point to be able to dive deeper into that location. So while I don't think it's super thematic, but I do like the art, I like the theme, I like the mechanisms of the game. Like, I think it's all great. The base game by itself, it just plays too fast. Like, the game ends before I feel like I got to do the fun things. And yeah, not my favorite thing. It was like, oh wow, this is really short. Like, that's also a pro, because if you want to knock out a game of Aquatica, yeah, you can just do the base game and like it'll go past in like an hour or something like that. Really good. But then Cold Waters, phenomenal expansion it extends that game. So it makes the game last longer. One of the few games that I think is worth having last longer. Like, you get to build up that little engine that you got going and play with that puzzle, which is the point of Aquatica. So yeah, the Aquatica plus Cold Waters, that's my preferred way to play Aquatica. Now they came out with Coral Reefs. I was excited about this because of how much I like Aquatica. It's one of the few kind of, I'm going to say it's basically multiplayer solitaire. There is some interactive stuff, but I don't really care too much about what other players are doing. And that's not really my favorite genre. So like, first up, it's just impressive to me that this game drew me in so much. Like having a multiplayer solitaire experience is not my preferred way to play, but I still, like, I'm always up for playing Aquatica. So Coral Reefs came out and I was like, yes, more stuff for Aquatica. I love it. Let's do this. Finally got at the table. This was a little while ago now, so it's a little older in my mind. But overall, I didn't care for this expansion. Didn't care for it at all. I played it the one time, and I'm pretty sure it's going. I'm selling it. Like, I don't want to keep it. I don't want to bring it out. I don't want to teach it. I don't want to deal with the components. So sorry that, yeah, that's very negative, but I think this is for, if you've played Aquatica and Aquatica Cold Waters so much that you're like, wow, this is getting stale. I'm not there yet. I don't play games repeatedly, like, I don't know, let's say 10 or 12 times. Like, I'm still probably at play number, I want to say 6 or 7 for Aquatica and Aquatica Cold Waters. So I have some more room to run in those waters, basically. Coral Reefs, totally unnecessary for me. It added a little bit more stuff, and that was okay. Added some more mantas, but the main thing that the game added were these new like coral reef tiles and the coral reef tokens. Coral reef tokens, there's ways to like add them to your locations, which are going to turn into bonus or add to your scoring pile or something. There was also some confusion about where those coral reef tokens went when you actually got them, because there's some weird terminology with like the supply versus your supply, because you can actually have some in your personal supply that aren't scored yet, which is a weird state for them to be in, but then they're going to go in your scoring pile. I don't know. There was some weird wording of how this worked in the game. And then those coral reef tokens that give you little location power-ups on your board, cool idea, but those tokens were, the text was tiny. Playing this game at like 4 players, no one could read those tokens. We were basically ignoring them most of the game until we got halfway through and someone was like, I should probably take one of these and figure out what it does. So the text was tiny, hard to see, which is one of my pet peeves in the game, is just having this market of tiles or whatever out there and having it where no one can parse that information and understand what it's going to benefit to them. So that's one of those things where you have game states where people will kind of ignore certain things just because it's hard to see, right? And I don't like having those components in games. I want those things to be in like a tray where you can take it and pass it around or something. So yeah, we didn't get to, or we just didn't want to deal with those. And they weren't really, they didn't add to the fun of the game. Like, the fun part of the game is getting those locations and then working on that sliding up puzzle. This added new ways to score points and new ways to, I guess, activate various things, but they just weren't, they didn't enhance the experience of Aquatica in any way. So that's where I land with Aquatica Coral Reefs. I didn't have a good time with it because, 1, it made the game harder to teach, 2, made the game harder to play. So yeah, unfortunate for that one. Yeah. So that's where I'm gonna leave it with Aquatica Coral Reefs. Okay. So moving on, this one's onto this is going to be a standalone expansion. So basically it's its own game. This is going to be Wizards of the Grimoire Shifting Sands. So I think I probably mentioned this in my hot takes for Wizards of the Grimoire, and I'm working on my review for that game right now. Shifting Sands is just the standalone expansion. It adds one new rule to the system. There's a new type of spell, which is called a relic, and these relics are just single-use spells. They're pretty cool. They can be kind of powerful, and also what's neat about this is that the game is set up to be kind of evenly paced between the players, and to maintain that, because when you cast a relic, it's going to go away, which means your spell pool is now going to be a little bit smaller than your opponent's spell pool. They actually kind of put this in, they fixed it by saying like, okay, you cast a relic and then you're just going to replace it with a new spell immediately. So they kind of made it so you stay even with your opponent on kind of your ability to play with that puzzle, which is one of the things I really like about Wizards of the Grimoire. I don't think everyone's going to love it, but the game maintains a very even-keeled pacing for the players, which gives you a very, I would say, repeatable experience. It doesn't have the chaos that some dueling games have, like thinking Star Realms or Radlands, where things can get very chaotic and one-sided very easily. Wizards of the Grimoire, I don't think you're ever going to run into it being one-sided unless one person just drafts spells that are just terrible for them or something. But I think that even keeled pacing is one of the reasons I really like Wizards of the Grimoire. And that one new mechanic, it's fine. The relics haven't dealt with them too much yet. But I do think that just the fact that they created an entirely new box of spells for Wizards of the Grimoire, I think it leaned into more of that combo-tastic stuff a little bit more than the original one, which is great. So I think this is just an amazing standalone sequel. I believe there's a way you can combine both the decks and just have like a deck of 140 spells and just play with everything for Wizards of the Grimoire, which is probably what I'm going to do because I absolutely love Wizards of the Grimoire. I think it's a fantastic head-to-head dueling game. Like I said, maybe you're not going to like it if you just don't like games where you're kind of taking down your opponent's health. Like that's the victory condition. Not the most exciting of victory conditions. It's an easy one to understand though, right? But if you don't like that style of game where, yeah, you're just attacking the other person, then you're probably not going to like Wizards, unfortunately. But I just think it's such a great game in the genre because of that cool puzzle you have with your spells and that mana cooldown system that you have. And Wizard of the Grimoire Shifting Sands just gives me more of that. I absolutely love it. I'm super happy I bought the expansion with the with the original. I am excited to play more of this one. So yeah, do you need both of them? Probably not. I would say well, no, you don't. You don't need both of them. They're very similar games. You could get away with one. I like it so much though that I'm very happy to own both of these games. Okay, we're on to my last expansion for this video. And this video went a little quicker than I expected, but you know, it is what it is. It's July 4th. I got a ton of stuff to do today. It's a holiday, so this will be good. So let's knock out this final hot take on an expansion. And this one's barely a hot take. I think I played with this expansion 3 times now. I am also thinking about reviewing this one in the near future. This is going to be Dune Imperium Bloodlines. So first off, I have to state that I played this with Uprising. Uprising is my preferred version of Dune Imperium. I've only played the original once, and I actually played it after I played Dune Imperium Uprising a few times, and I would say I missed some of the things that were in Uprising. I was like, oh, it doesn't have the spies. Oh, it doesn't have those sandworms. Oh, okay, well. But, I mean, it had a very similar feeling, so to me, the games, they occupy they definitely occupy the same, like, mental space of the problem solving that you're doing in it. I just enjoy I would say the chaos, the swinginess, and just and those spies in Uprising more than that original version. So like my preferred way to play is with Uprising. So I've added Bloodlines into Uprising now. So there's the 3 main additions to the Bloodlines expansion. That's going to be, first I'm going to call it the more stuff. I love more stuff expansions. It's just where you get more stuff that goes in the base game. You don't add any more rules. It's just like, throw this stuff in. There you go. You get more variety, more things to do. So like those leaders, the cards, and the contracts. I'll note that I always play with the Choppe module too. I don't see the point of not playing with it, so I always include the contracts. So the more stuff is fantastic. Now, next up's the Sardaukar Commanders. These are going to be some new units that will go out on various spaces of the board, and you can recruit them by spending, I think it's like 2 Solari or something. So it gives you another option to spend money. Then lastly is tech tiles. So tech tiles, I believe, are in one of the Ixian expansion for Dune Imperium. So I've never actually played with the tech tiles with the original game. So the tech tiles were completely new to me in this one. I guess this would technically fall under more stuff if you've already played the Ixian expansion, but for me, this was new stuff. Now, first up, what do I love about this expansion? I love the more stuff. Mainly, I love the new leaders. I am a huge fan of the new leader cards. This is what I was hoping for with Dune Imperium expansions. I kind of wanted them to do just like an expansion pack of new leaders. I didn't want them to add any more rules. I was just like, just give me more leaders with more signet ring abilities. That's all I want to see. Like, that's what I wanted in this game. So the fact that it came with a bunch of new leaders is fantastic. I absolutely love them. Now, I believe there's ones like, it's Steersman, I want to say Yorkin is his name or something. That leader card, I think, is really fun because you're doing this little thing where you're selecting these cards to give yourself little objectives to go for. And if you, I think, reach alliance with the houses in like the right order, you get to trigger these bonus powers. I think that's a really cool puzzle to set up for yourself. I do think Steersman Yorkman may be a little overpowered, especially for beginning players, because if you don't know how to stop someone that is kind of getting those victory points by allying with those houses, then they can kind of run away with the game. And the steersman leader just leans into that strategy. It just says, yeah, win a couple battles, hopefully get some points from that, but really, like, just go up those tracks. Like, move up those tracks, get 8 victory points from getting that first victory point at the second space, and then allying with all houses that you possibly can. And yeah, it's just like, you can run away with the game with this one. I think, so I played with them on my first play of Bloodlines, and I swept the game. Like, it was, I think it was in like round 7 or something, won with them, which was kind of unfortunate because I had some new players and it was just like, oh, wow, okay, well, that went poorly. And then someone else played with them on my, I think, second or third try with Bloodlines, and yeah, they won the game. So to me, Steersman Yorkman seems like they might be a little overpowered, and you may have to have players that know how to counter him. So that's maybe a downside. Next up, I want to mention Lady Jessica. Lady Jessica was, I think, the second game I played. I got to play with Lady Jessica, and I thought this was so cool because I recently got done reading the original Dune book again. I'm reading number 2 right now, and I think that helps draw you into this world, which, for me, I've seen some people call Dune Imperium not very thematic. Like, it's pretty abstract. It's a worker placement, card play one, but since I read the books, everything kind of stood out to me as being thematic. So I think it's a bit of a subjective experience where, yeah, your own experiences and your familiarity with the Dune universe may bring it out more or less than other people's. And for me, because I was kind of in it at that point, a lot of those things came to life for me. And one of those things that came to life is playing as Lady Jessica, and then eventually, drinking the water of life or whatever, and then becoming Reverend Mother Jessica during the game. So for me, that was amazing. Like, I thought that was a super cool touch, super cool tie-in to the actual story of Dune. So yeah, that's the some comments on the new leader cards. The other things I really like are like the more cards in the deck, just more deck building opportunities for you, which, yeah, that's great. Didn't see them all, but it's kind of cool. It added some new powers to the cards as well, which are good. Like, there are some cards that you can actually go into combat with, which I think is great, because sometimes being limited by those spaces is a little, it can be tough, especially if you're doing a strategy which doesn't take you to those spaces very often. So I think just the more cards is great. Now, the next one I'll talk about, I'm going to move on to the Sardaukar units. First, I'm going to call out, I hate the fact that they have the Sardaukar units plus a Sardaukar spot on the board. So I think this was probably maybe a oversight, calling a spot on the board Sardaukar. Maybe they should have called it Salsa Secundus or whatever, like the planet that the Sardaukar come from, instead of the Sardaukar. Because with the Sardaukar expansion, when I was teaching the rules, I realized I was having a bit of an issue talking about the Sardaukar units versus the Sardaukar space. So I don't like that you're using the same word for 2 different things in the game, right? But the Sardaukar commanders they're a neat unit, where essentially if you have some extra money and you go to a spot and recruit them, you also get to recruit a Sardaukar command tile. And then that command tile, it will be active as long as you have 1 Sardaukar unit in the battle. And these things have things, it's like, okay, add more combat power, or you can do, I don't remember all the abilities, but you can do some interesting things with changing up how you do like the puzzle of the game. Like, there's some stuff where you can get a bonus during your reveal phase, which is kind of cool. Main thing I'm going to call out on these, though, is that I feel like, and I'm going to call this out in the tech tiles as well. Actually, I'll just mention them both right now. So some of my early plays of Dune Imperium Uprising, I've run into some players having a windfall of resources. Like, one player ends up with a boatload of spice that they don't need anymore. One player ends up with a boatload of money they don't need anymore. It's usually toward to the end game, and it's just kind of like, I don't know what to do with these resources. Like, how did I even end up in this position where I have all these resources? And I think that both these expansion additions kind of help with giving people a place to spend those resources. And I think that's a really good touch. Like, the tech tiles they take the spice. So if you do kind of pursue going for a lot of spice, and maybe you gained a lot of spice by doing one of the contracts, which gives you a bonus, but you didn't really need the spice, but hey, now you got a place you can spend the spice, which is on one of those tech tiles. Same thing with getting money. Like maybe you got some money that you needed at the time, but now you have nowhere to spend it, or someone blocked the spot that you're going to spend it. But now, hey, you can spend it on recruiting the Sardaukar units. And if your Sardaukar units die from battle, you can recruit them again later by spending another 2 Solari to get them back into your garrison. So right there, I think that just giving you a little more options of how to spend those resources is a good addition to this game. It also changed the value on some of those bases. Like you only get a tech tile if you go to the Emperor's Council, like the green spaces on the board or whatever. And then you can, if you go to one of those spaces, you can take one of the tech tiles. This kind of changes things where some spaces I would say were uneven in their, let's say, want to go to during the game. And I think they did a great job of kind of increasing the incentive for going to these spaces that kind of become left out towards the end game. And I think this is something that Direwolf in general does really good with their expansions. They identify a place in their game that is kind of, they're like, oh, this wasn't balanced, or this was broken in a way, or this just didn't seem to work how we intended in the long run. And their expansion does a great job of fixing those things. Not that it needed to be fixed. I think that Dune Imperium Uprising is fantastic by itself. Like, I don't think you need this expansion. The only thing that I wish was just separate from it were those leaders. I wish you could pick up those leaders without the expansion. But yeah, none of this is necessary. It does add in a little bit more to the rules overhead, but nothing was super complicated. Everything tied in pretty well with the game. And overall, I think I'm just keeping it I think I'm keeping everything together. Like, I think my default play now is going to be Dune Imperium Uprising with Bloodlines. I don't think I'm going to separate the components. I think I'm just going to throw it in and just do that as my full teach now. I think it all works together. It is, like I said, adds a little bit for new players. Like if you're teaching someone new, I can see that this is going to be, maybe the Sardaukar commanders is like the straw that broke the camel's back. Too many rules for that person. They're just like, I don't want to do this. But I think that it ties in nicely and it's not too complicated. So yeah, the Sardaukar commanders and the tech, overall, I'm giving that kind of it's a meh. Like that's my rating for those two things. They're totally fine. They're good. I don't think they're necessary, but they're good. I do like that they balanced out those spaces a bit by adding those components and giving you a little more flexibility on how you can pursue things outside of the deck building itself. The new leaders and stuff, fantastic. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so yeah, that is going to do it for my review on Dune Imperium Bloodlines. And that's going to do it for this Friday Hot Takes video. So, like I said, I like to do a little bit of in my past videos, I like to do a little bit of a wrap up just to give you, if you've skipped to my final thoughts, you get to learn everything that I talked about in the last, 30 minutes in the next, 1 minute. So, Santorini, Riddle the Sphinx. I love this co-op expansion. I think it's great. I just think it's very pricey if you don't own the base game of Santorini already, which is unfortunate because I do really like this as a 2-player co-op experience. It's a nice, fun puzzle. They do a really good job introducing the rules, and it's quick and it's a nice to play. Beyond the Sun, Leaders of the New Dawn. Not really a required expansion unless you play Beyond the Sun a lot. I don't love the new leaders cards. They're okay. They add in a little bit of variability. I do really like the new Hive Mind faction and the rebalanced tech cards that come in this expansion. Thunder Road Vendetta Chop Shop. I love the upgrade cards. I think the expansion is worth it just for those upgrade cards. The leaders add a little more complexity to the game that might not be worth it, in my opinion at least, but the upgrade cards are 100% worth it. Aquatica Coral Reefs, I did not have a good time with this. I don't recommend it unless you have played Aquatica Cold Water so many times that you're just like, ooh, I'm getting a little bored. So that's the only reason I think you should pick up Coral Reefs. Wizards of the Grimoire Shifting Sands, standalone expansion, fantastic. I love Wizards of the Grimoire. That is a great game. So watch out for my review of it coming in the future. But Shifting Sands is great. You do not need to own both of them. I think you can own one or the other. If you don't want to have the one extra rule for Shifting Sands, get the base one. If you want a little more puzzliness, I think Shifting Sands is probably the way to go. But both of them are great. Next up, Dune Imperium Bloodlines. as I mentioned, I love the addition of the new leaders, and then the Sardaukar and the tech tiles for me are just they're okay. I'm going to leave them in with my base game now. That's my default play state for the game is going to be with the Bloodlines expansion. So take that for what it is. I don't think this is a necessary one, but I do really, really like those new leader cards. All right, so that is going to do it for today. That is the hot takes video done on July 4th. And as always, I want to thank you for watching this and thank you for spending your time with me. And I'll talk to you next time.